for example, we have been used to RDBMS. Before that there was a DBMS, and before that there was just only file systems. Okay, so now it is NoSQL. Okay, so there was a growth going like this. We also seen that typically previously it was axis like this, a tape. So tape was there, so it was a linear axis. Then came disk. So this was sequential access. This was random access. Okay, so now random access gave rise to lots of random. Fastness in your random access provided you the capability to look into any record. So for random access to work, there should be two activities. First one is to do a seek, and second one is to do a transfer. These two activities are needed. So we looked into that. So what we figured out, that the seek time in the past 30 years, okay, the improvement is less. Okay, transfer rate has increased. Okay, today 100 Mbps transfer is very easy. That is from disk to memory is faster. Okay, so now if this is the case, what happens is that of these two things, the seek time is going to, for any big operations, if for any big data operations, seek time is going to be the limitation. Seek time determines how fast it can be done. Okay. So since seek time has not improved in the past 30 years, so your any operations, anything that you advances into hardware or any other thing, it's always going to be depend upon the seek time. And for some reason, suddenly what happened is that over a period of time, there was always a need for RDBMS. Okay. Now suddenly what happens is that there was a huge data growth. Huge data growth was there. So with huge data growth, there was two problems. So one is you had the problem of storing data, and second one is the problem of processing data. So to store data, people came up with a distributed file system. This is what we call as a Hadoop distributed file system. And to process this whole data is where Hadoop MapReduce came into picture. Okay, this thing was done. But what happens is this has a limitation. There is a limitation. Okay, Hadoop is good for storing large in the sense of huge data in petabyte scale. And it can do the processing on huge files. The limitation is, okay, it can do only batch processing. Okay, so no matter how much data it is possible, and batch processing, and then that is data can be looked only in sequential manner. Okay, and entire data set has to be looked even for simplest job. Okay, so this is the limitation. Okay, so people when they created huge database, huge systems for storing and retrieving and all kinds of data, then people wanted, okay, it is fine that I can store huge amount of data. I'm fine with even batch processing, but I want, so what happens is that it's like this, okay, huge data after processing produces huge data, okay. Even this data has to be sequentially analyzed. So this is where people wanted a change. Okay, people said that at least the results of processing I should need something like an RDBMS. That is, we can look into any point of data in order of one lookup time. Okay. Now people said that since so this is what the requirement is. Okay. So this is where the projects like Cassandra, projects like HBase, projects like Dynamo, projects like MongoDB, projects like CouchDB, so many things. Okay, these are all examples of NoSQL databases. Okay, which means that it not only stores a huge amount of data, but also provides a capability to look into those data in a random fashion. Okay. So is that clear that from where this overall Hadoop and how Hadoop solved the problem, and then how it also paved a path for the next set of things to come into place. So this is where we kind of left in the last week. Okay, so we went a little bit detailed. So we also covered on aspects like, okay, how there was a search engine, and then how there was an inverted index to be built, and quite a lot of other HBase theories. Okay, so what we covered in the last classes. So you're able to see my slides, right? So what we covered in our last class is that what is NoSQL, why ACID properties are no more relevant for us, and do we have web apps that are different than yesterday's application, and what changed recently. So what changed recently, we got massive data volumes and with extreme load queries, and when there is a massive amount of data, the main problem bottleneck was predominantly into the joins, okay, and schema evolution. Okay. So what happened was schema evolution was people wanted. Oops. Okay. So we looked into schema evaluation. Schema evaluation is a concept that goes very well with the Hadoop ecosystem. Okay. So what happened? Anybody has any doubts? You can just stop me. Okay. Since lots of people are on mute, I may not be sure whether it is everybody is following, or is there is anything that that needs to be.
So Mani, this is Amit here. I have one small question before we proceed.
Yeah.
So as this is not our first class for the HBase, right? This is second class.
Yes, yes.
Can we somehow get the recording of the first class?
Should be, there is a recording. I think the voice was, there was some problem in the recording. Okay, I think Shilpi, I think we can coordinate. I think there are other recordings also which we can actually share it. Shilpi, we can talk with Shilpi after this session. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. One second, sir. Some reason.
So Mani, I have one question here.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah. Tell me.
you said like Hadoop is only for batch processing,
Yes.
and I mean, it looked only in sequential manner, something like that. So, can you please give
Yes.
some more details on like Hadoop, how Hadoop, HBase, and RDBMS? Can you please elaborate more on these three areas so that we can clearly understand where and why?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. One second. Just give me a moment. This thing is not writing. Give me a moment. Okay. What we'll do is now. Okay. So I'll tell you the reason. So you want to understand that why I call Hadoop as a sequential system, right? Okay. So let's talk about a simple thing. Okay. Hadoop. Okay. So what is Hadoop designed for? Hadoop is predominantly designed for processing huge amount of files. Okay. And huge amount of files can be processed only if you are able to divide the files into multiple blocks. Okay. And then process the individual blocks. Okay. So this is the concept. Okay, this is a conceptual model. So what happens if this is a big file to be processed? I have to split this file like this. You can say B1, B2, B3, and B4. Okay. So the first problem is that if I have to split this and then do it, I can do this only when my whole concept of processing this file can happen in a sequential manner. Okay, if it is going to happen in random manner, I may not know where to start. Okay, so if my problem is like if I have to do randomly, I can't split it first of all. So first of all, to split individually and process it, I need to do a sequential processing. So I split this. Okay, so now B1, B2, B3, B4 is there. This is given to computer 1, this is given to computer 2, given to computer 3, given to computer 4. Okay. What can also be there is this B1 itself can further be divided into B01, B02, B03. Okay, maybe multiple threads can look into this. Okay, so multiple threads can look into that. So what has to happen is that to split and process, I need to divide and then work on it. The processing should be sequential alone. Okay, that is one aspect of it. The second aspect is all I'm doing is analytical. Okay, so the thing is that predominantly when I see, so it is like an aggregate operation. Okay, so aggregate operation. Say for example, a simple example will take sum. Okay, to do sum. Okay, say for example, if I have an array like this. Okay, sorry about my drawing. Say for example 1 7 8 6 2 1 3 2 1. If I have an array like this, and to count the sum of this array, I have to visit all elements. Okay, and when I have to visit all elements, okay, when I have to visit all elements, it's good to do sequential. Okay, so I start from here and then I keep reading like this. Okay, so what happens in a typical RDBMS is, that is why you have an array kind of a data structure. Okay, so you read this whole thing into memory and then keep it and then reading it. Okay, so it is one single read and then do it. Say for example, if this is not just 10 elements, imagine there is 1 million elements. Okay, so one in the disk, this 1 million stored in this disk, it may not stored completely into one block. Okay, this 1 million entry in the disk will be stored somewhere here, 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 here. So many places it will be kept. Okay, so the operating system has to do multiple seeks and transfer this. Okay, so it has to do the multiple seeks and transfer to do this counting. So in Hadoop, what people decided is that, okay, because it is a disk, it has to do this. If I am doing like this, I will be spending all my times in this seek, which is the slowest component. Okay, it is like this. In the marathon, your fast is determined by the slowest runner. I mean, not in the marathon, in what you call it, the relay race. Your speed is decided by the slowest runner, not the fastest runner. Okay, like what lots of people may think. Okay, so it's the slowest runner decides the overall speed. Okay, because no matter how much the other person performs, the slowest runner is going to determine how fast the team can progress. Okay, so this designer wanted to remove the slowest runner. So what they thought, anyway I'm going to do processing all the content, I don't need this disk. So they wanted to convert this disk into tape. So the concept of, so there's a new terminology called disk as tape. So what they wanted to do, they wanted to do a bulk transfer. So big files are divided into bigger blocks of 64 MB. Okay, and they are kept. Okay, and the processing is not going to do a random seeks. The processing is always goes to, it starts from here, reads the entire 64 MB, takes it into memory and process. Read 64 MB, read 64 MB. And inside it, it does only a sequential read. Because according to Hadoop, your data is nothing like a list. And to do any activity, we have to look into entire data set. Okay, and if I have to do the look into entire data set, what is more efficient way of doing it? Sequential. This is the most efficient way of doing it if I have to read the entire data set. Is it understood now? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, it's pretty clear, yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, good one.
And Mani, I have one question. So generally, like whenever we get that data from like external systems, so do we have to perform like batch processing on the Hadoop and then store the data onto the HBase, or we can do batch processing even on HBase as well?
Okay, let's put batch processing. I said it's just an example. I mean, it's a terminology. Okay? Okay. What happens is it is not a batch. It is called a MapReduce, and the batch processing. I said batch processing because Sequential processing is people always have thought batch processing into the concept of sequential processing. Okay, if I have 100 records, I read all the 100 records. So why we call it as a batch processing means it's not interactive. Interactive is like if I have 100 records, I need only 2 or 3 of them. It is not batch. It is like random reads. Okay, so that's an example. That is just an just to give an analogy, it's say that batch processing, but predominantly what we call as a MapReduce. And MapReduce is sequential in nature. And when data comes in, if you are writing any MapReduce, that is done in sequential. And this sequential data can be pushed into HBase, and that is also in a sequential manner.
Okay.
Got it? So it will be like this. Okay, I'll just draw. Okay. There will be multiple streams of data. Okay, this is what we call streams of data. They all push into a HDFS cluster. Okay, on this cluster you run MapReduce. You again push data, the output is pushed into HDFS. Plus you can push into HBase. If you push into HBase, other applications which needs interactive data, they contact HBase directly and then get data. Say for example,
Okay. So
the streams of data in HDFS clusters, let me complete it once again. Say for example, if this had 1 billion rows, okay, MapReduce processing it, okay, let's for example, it is transformed into, say for example, 500 million rows. It's pushed into HBase. This application needs one row out of 500 million. Then use HBase. Okay. MapReduce is used in places where to do transformation you do MapReduce. Also, if you want to know how many of the 1 billion is below poverty line, if you have to do this query, you do MapReduce. Okay, because that access the entire data set. Okay, got it?
yeah. So like from the HDFS cluster, like if you are doing any kind of transformations, like from the MapReduce, from the MapReduce we can directly push it down to the HBase, or it has to be from the HDFS cluster we have to.
Yes, MapReduce to HBase can be directly, I mean it has a two-step process, okay? So MapReduce to HDFS, you cannot push directly to HBase, okay? You write to HDFS and from HDFS you push to MapReduce. But in the new release of HBase, what they did is from HBase itself you can run a MapReduce so that that intermediate step can be eliminated. That is, you directly run MapReduce from HBase on the HDFS cluster, so the output is directly returned to an HBase table.
Okay.
Okay, that is possible now. In the last 3 months or 4 months, they made such kind of capabilities.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Mani, I have one more question here then. Can you give some more example, as you said for HBase, if you have, say in HDFS you have 1 million of records and half million you pushed into the HBase from HDFS. So you just gave two scenarios. One scenario is like if you want to capture one row from that 500,000 rows.
I'll give you an example. You are based out of, you're currently following what is happening in India, right? Say,
Yeah.
we have other project, that is a UID project. Okay, I have also worked on that UID project. I was designing the HBase the data model for the other projects. Okay. So here, like a social security number, okay, it's like, say money goes in and then I put my fingerprints and then give a retina scan. It needs to immediately know this is money, which means out of 1 billion record, one record has to be matched. Okay.
Okay.
So this is where HBase comes in. So the other aspect of it is, I have this whole Indians data, and then you need to do some kind of a map reduce, I mean do some kind of an analytics, okay. How many of them are, how many people do you think will migrate in the next year from the urban to the rural? Okay.
So do you mean like we can do predictive analytics, something like that you are talking?
Yes, yes. All those kind of things, anything that needs processing the whole data, you write it as a map reduce on the HDFS cluster directly. HBase mostly the result of lots of other transformation wherein you need data and then in a real time you need to access the data, you use HBase.
Yeah,
Got
that's
it?
fine. And yeah, so see, say in my, I'm working for one of the storage company,
Mm-hmm.
and their log files are coming from their one shared storage, and
Mm-hmm.
Flume is pushing the data into SDFS.
Hmm.
Okay, so I don't know how they are bifurcating the some information from that log files, since that log file contains it's like a 62 section, and out of that 62 section, one section contains configuration related information, and that information they are taking from SDFS to HBase.
HBase.
So
Okay, that's very simple,
yeah,
right?
HBase. So any business rule they are writing, or what kind of things? Because I'm not aware of
okay.
it.
Let's put it like this. Okay, since you are not part of Hadoop class, okay, I'm going to oversimplify this. Okay, say this is a row. Let's take this as a row. Okay, it has like 0 to 63 columns. Okay. Okay. So what we do in a map reduce is you write two functions. One is map and one is reduce. In the map function, what we predominantly do is called, you do transformation. Okay, and key value form formation. Okay, so in your problem it is only transformation. Say for example, you are only interested in 43rd field. Okay, now what happened is, map, you get this record. Okay, all that you are going to do is string data equal to record of 43. I'm writing pseudocode. Okay, this is not a real code. Okay, then what you do, context dot write data. Okay, so reduce, since there is no reduce logic, it is just going to write context dot write of data. So what will happen is, this record after this map reduce program will be converted into just data 43. Like this it will be there. Then somebody would have written a simple program, simple 10-line program that read this file and call hbase.put record of I. Okay, so for example, for I equals 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Okay, so now this, if you have 1 billion rows, here you will have 1 billion rows in HBase, but only column 43. Okay, got it right? I just oversimplified it, but
Yes,
if you are part of the Hadoop class, you will be able to write this code actually.
Okay.
Got it right?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Any other doubts?
But I will ask you.
Okay. So before I continue, okay, I want everybody to, I'll tell you the prerequisite, okay. So the prerequisite for the next class is set up Hadoop. Okay. Very easy. Set up Hadoop and then set up HBase. One second. travel okay. So set up Hadoop, set up HBase. So for these two things, the prerequisite would be like Java should be set up and should be set up Eclipse. Okay, predominantly. So I think everybody is. I'll tell you the plan. Okay, the plan. If everybody is having Windows machine, download VMware Player. Okay, and then install Ubuntu 12.10 in that. Okay, and then install Java in the same order. Okay, install Java. Okay, install Hadoop, install HBase. After Java, you install Ant. Okay, install Hadoop, install HBase, install Eclipse. Okay, so this is how you have to do it. Everything is free. You don't need to pay for anything. Okay, VMware Player is free. Okay.
After Java, you said Ant, right?
Yes. Ant. This is for your build and compile. Okay. This is for build and compile. We use Ant. Okay. And I have sent only HBase installation instruction, right? Shilpi, if you have all the people's Hadoop, the Hadoop installation, you can send because whatever is we give for the other people, it is the same Hadoop setup. I'll ask Shilpi to send you both the Hadoop setup instructions as well as HBase setup instructions. And please don't wait till next class for any problem in setup. Before that itself, start doing the setup so that by the time we come to the next class, we will have the setup ready. Okay, so that we will save the time in the class to do the actual problem solving rather than fixing the environment and then trying to do the setup. Okay, so plan clear? Hello.
Yes, yes.
I mean, during the installation, like if I have any questions, is it okay to contact?
Send it to an email. That's what I said. Just send an email.
Okay.
So that I'll be able to reply back to you. I'll not be immediately able to reply back, but then before I'll be able to, within a day's time, I'll be able to reply.
Sure.
Or predominantly at 12 hours difference, right? We are having. I should be able to reply back.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So send an email, but when you send an email, clearly say, put it in a heading. This is for HBase class because I get lots of mails, so I shouldn't be missing out. Just put HBase Jan batch and problem and clearly state the problem. If at all you're seeing any log files, I mean, if you're seeing any errors, just don't tell errors. You also mentioned that output that is provided. I mean, whatever output you're seeing on the screen, if you can write it in a clearly, we can, because we have 12-hour difference, right? when you write a mail and then I respond back and then it will take another 12 hours for you to read it back. So we shouldn't be. So to cut that, if you put a clear mail, I should be able to answer it without having further questions. Okay, so just try to do that one. Okay.
Mani, is it required to know Spring and other things for this course? Like
No, absolutely
Java?
nothing. No, nothing. Nothing is needed. Plain Java is all you need. Okay. One second. So
I mean, I haven't, this is like, I should
yeah,
not ask or not, but I just wanted to ask.
No problem, ask.
I didn't get, yeah, I didn't
Hello?
get many, I mean, yeah, I didn't get much example on HBase MapReduce program. So is it, I mean, can you please help us like sending some real-time example top to bottom so that we can.
We will be doing it. We will be doing it. Okay. We will do it as a part of our programming exercise.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank
what
you.
will happen is, say for example, let me put it in a simple. If you're trying to search online, most of the things that we talk will not be available. Okay. Say for example, what happens inside HBase is that in HBase everything is a table. Okay. So on this table itself, you can run a MapReduce. Okay. Okay. If you're Googling, you have to use the right terms. So what you can answer, just Google for HBase table reducer. Google for these terms. You may get lots of relevant information, but mostly you'll get some code. Okay. So on this table, you can do a MapReduce, which essentially means that your input can be anything, but your output would be this table. Essentially in MapReduce, what people do is that reduce will write to a text file. So in HBase implementation, what happens is that the reduce will do a put command. A put command will put right into HBase. Okay, so if you search for HBase table reducer, you may get some Google links to that. Okay. Got it? So the actual class name is called HTable reducer. HTable Any doubts so far? Okay, let's see what changed. Okay, with no doubts, we'll continue with this thing. Okay. So this is the diagram that we looked into last week. So this is where we concluded kind of. Okay, we wanted to understand what are the different kinds of systems based on the CAP theorem. Okay. Okay, so HBase formally. Okay, so formally HBase. Okay, so HBase is a, let's understand HBase. Okay, HBase. Okay, so HBase is what are we doing? It is telling that this is an open source. It is horizontally scalable, sorted map built on top of Apache Hadoop. Okay, there's too much of technology jargon, right? Open source because it is an Apache project. So that is understood. Second is horizontally scalable. Okay, why we don't call, so we need to understand why and how. Don't just take, because I'm telling HBase is horizontal scalable, don't just assume it. Okay, you need to understand that why it is horizontally scalable and how it is horizontally scalable. Is there any other databases that is horizontally scalable? And if not, why they are not horizontally scalable? Okay, so all these questions has to be understood, okay? And this is what I'm going to give this as an exercise, okay? So understand what is horizontal. This is an exercise, okay? Exercise for next class. Well, understand what is
Mani, can you say,
yes.
can you tell what is scalable in terms of HBase?
What is?
Scalable in terms of HBase.
Sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
See, HBase supports horizontal or and linear scalable.
Scalable.
Yes, scalable. Correct. So, I mean, I just wanted to understand.
This is scalable. That is, say for example, when I say horizontally scalable, which means that I have 100 records. At that time, I had one machine. If I have 200 records, the same one machine can work. When I had 300 records, I need two machines. Okay. When I put this two machine, whether this will work out or this won't work out, which means that if I have two machines, whether it becomes 150 in one machine, 150 in another machine. So the load gets shared, or 200 in one machine, remaining 100 in another machine. So it's like, so here what happens is that you don't know how the load gets distributed. It's not horizontally or linearly scalable, okay? So which means that all the machines that I keep on, so two things should satisfy. As data grows, my system should accept without problem by adding more hardware and function smoothly. That is, it should be able to read properly. Write. When read, it needs to know where the data is. When write, it needs to know where. Okay. Since it is horizontally scalable, any one machine can fail. And what will happen when one machine fails? Okay, all those things has to be answered. When they say horizontally scalable, it is not just it is just a jargon, but between this jargon there are too many things that needs to be properly understood. Okay, that is why I am saying completely understand what does it mean by horizontally scalable and what all things a machine should, a system should guarantee so that horizontal scalability can be worked out. Okay, that is an exercise I am telling. Is it clear now?
Yes, it is clear.
Okay, so the second thing, okay, the second thing that what you are telling is it is a sorted map. Okay, this is the most important thing that we need to understand. Okay, why we call this a sorted map? Okay, as I said, people wanted, okay, how RDBMS work? Okay, inside this RDBMS, say for example, if I have 1000 records, how RDBMS is able to retrieve a single record. Anybody knows? Don't say SQL. SQL is just only an interface. Okay. So internally it uses lots of B+tree algorithm. Okay, to search. Search a key. Okay. Now, so this is a complex. So this was B+tree is good for random data. Okay, because your data has to be first seek and then found. So these guys also have concept of index. If they go use this index and then find which sector location it may be available and then that's it. Okay. So all these things are possible. Okay. Now, because the data is random data, it is stored randomly. Okay. Now, here when we store the data in a sequential manner, okay, I don't need this kind of structure. So what I can do is that I can have a hash map. Okay. And not just simple hash map, it's a sorted hash map. So what I do, I have 100 records, 1000 records. I represent them as a hash map. Okay, so there is a key and there is a value. And since it is a sorted hash map, and this can be also persisted, okay, that is stored. So all I'm building here is a distributed hash map. For 40 years, people try to build distributed hash table, DHT. Just even type DHT, distributed hash table, and then see how many research papers has been written. Enormous amount of research paper, but nobody built any successful DHT. The reason they want to build DHT on regular file system. In Google, engineers decided that to have DHT, the prerequisite is distributed file system. Okay. Without a distributed file system, you cannot have a distributed hash table because your hash table is limited by your memory. But your data is thousands of times higher than RAM. Okay, so what we have to do, though you hash table can get all your data in order of one, you cannot keep this entire data in a hash table. So you need a distributed hash table so that pieces of data is in okay, pieces of hash table is in all machine. Since it's sorted, key based index will work, will help which key is in which hash table. Okay, so it will be like, instead of having one hash table like 1 to 1 billion, what we have is that we have a, say for example, is hash, so we just have a simple entry wherein we say that key range is 0 to 100 is in hash table 1, 100 to 700 is in hash table 2, 701 to 10,000 in hash table 3. Like this, you can keep an entry and then you can do it. Okay, this is why we call HBase as a distributed hash table. Okay, so it is a sorted hash map. Okay, so this is the concept. So people wanted distributed hash table, and distributed hash table is impossible to build without a distributed file system. And Google had a distributed file system, so they built a distributed hash table very easily. Distributed hash, a sorted hash map in a distributed fashion, and that is called Bigtable. And the open source implementation of the Bigtable is what we call as a HBase. Is this clear now, the concept? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, yes, Mani.
It's clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that is what we are saying, okay? Data model inspired and similar to Google's Bigtable. Goal is to provide a quick random read and write across massive amount of data. It is layered over HDFS, that is your distributed file system, and it is tolerant of machine failure. Let's understand tolerant of machine failure, okay, little bit more. Okay, when we say tolerant of machine failure, so it is less. So we saw it, right? What? So in the last thing, what we saw.
So Mani, just I wanted to interrupt here. As you said, like it's a sorted map. So it's a sorted in descending order. Is that correct?
Any order. It's a sorted hash map. Your view can be in anything. Okay, sorting is sorting. Okay, when you say ascending or descending, it is only how you view the data. Okay. Array doesn't have beginning or end. Okay, array doesn't have this is beginning and this is end. Beginning and this is only in our mind and in the code. In the RAM, a computer can read an array from both the directions.
Correct.
Okay, so if you want ascending order, it will read from left to right. If you want descending order, it may read from left to right, right to left.
Then how this sorted map justify the HBase? Just can you?
Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yes, let's draw that. Okay. Say for example, I have 1 billion rows. Okay, to store and process. Okay, this is the problem that we have to have. Okay, then we say that RDBMS cannot do it. Okay, RDBMS simply cannot do it. Then what else is possible? Somebody says that, okay, you know what, we can have hash map. Okay, then we say that hash map as a limited by RAM, which at the maximum it can be 64 GB. Okay, even a 64 GB could not store it. Okay, then what else we can do? Then we say that, okay, we will have multiple machines. Somebody says that, okay, these multiple machines are no use because my hash map can be only in one machine. It cannot be in two machines. Then somebody says that, okay, let us build because we have already built a distributed file system, let us also build a distributed hash table. Then somebody says that, okay, conceptually, let us have the hash map like this. That is like 0 to a billion entry. And let us break this hash map into smaller hash maps. And this hash map is in machine 1, this is in machine 2, and this in machine 3, machine 4. Then somebody says that if it is this way, since in a hash map, there is no guarantee that record 1 will be here and record 2 will be here and 3 will be here, because it's a hash key. It can be in anywhere. So which means that locating the data will become complex. So somebody said, so the people think that, so let us not have a hash map, we have a sorted hash map. Okay, if I have a sorted hash map, now what I can have here is that I will have a partitioner, okay? So this guy will know, given a key, which range it falls into. Say for example, if I give a key called 23, it will say, it will not know whether 23 is in either this machine, this machine, this machine, this machine. But what it will know here is that since it is a sorted hash map, we will have stored the range 0 to 50 here, 51 to 100 here, 101 to 200 here. So when 23 comes, guaranteed it will say it should be in M2. I mean, the place to look for is M2. Whether it is there or not, you figure it out. If M2 says the data is not there, I'm sorry, M1. If M1 says the data is not there, don't even look into any other things because M2 starting data itself is 51. So its only price is M1. This is the guarantee that is provided by the hash map, okay? And we will do it in a little bit detail. We will figure it out. This range is not fixed, okay? And nobody fixes this range, it automatically emerges. This range emerges and it's a dynamic data, okay? So the details of it we will look into while we cover other areas. Is it clear now? Hello?
Yes, I'm fine.
Yes, fine, okay. Okay. So the last part what we want to understand is that machine failures.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to conclude here, like as you said, it's a sorted hash map. So definitely, since we are knowing the like this data is falling under some particular range, so it will help us to help us in access retrieval.
Yes, it is going to help you in faster retrieval.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is, so by the time we come to next class, I want everybody to learn one thing. It is called consistent hashing. You need to know this concept. Okay, I'll explain you, but just Google for consistent hashing and then read about consistent hashing. And this consistent hashing is going to help you. This is what is going to help come over here, okay? This is going to make sure that which key goes to which machine, okay? Decided. Okay, so read about this consistent hashing. That is what internally used here. Okay, so that is one. So machine failures. Okay, that's the last thing here. Okay, this machine failure. Okay, so what we did when we talked about machine failure somewhere here. When we talked about linear scalable, right? When you talked about linear scalable, when data was 100, we had one machine. When data was 200, we had M2 also, which means that 1 to 100 is in one machine, 101 to 200 is in another machine. Okay. Now, from an application perspective, it sees data from 1 to 200. Okay. Now, since there are two different machines, this machine can fail independent of this machine. When this machine fails, half of your data is lost. Okay. So in order to avoid this kind of scenarios, what people generally do, when all these systems that are linearly scalable, yes, this is scalable. So this is one portion and this is another portion. So they will have a replica. So they'll have a replica. Okay, so even if this machine fails, this machine should take over it. Okay, so this is like all linearly scalable machines should have a mechanism for failure handling. Okay, so that is HBase is direct, is by default. By default, Hadoop provides replication, and then HBase leverages those replication mechanism to provide to save it from machine failures. Okay. 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 So. Okay. Okay. So now, the main question to ask after this is when to use HBase. Okay. So these are some of the things that you need to ask before you even start attempting to use the HBase. Okay. Even in one of the projects that I'm currently working on, we wanted to ideally use HBase. I mean, we have to use HBase or not. We had a choice. Okay. Finally, we are not using HBase. It doesn't mean that HBase is not a suited. Okay. So there are lots of factors when you have to choose whether to use HBase or other databases. Okay. One of them is that if it needs to be really, really big data, then only you can use HBase. Okay. If you are not using it, if it is smaller data, if it can be used with RDBMS, go with RDBMS. Okay. You should always choose the right tool for the right job. Okay. And so don't assume that HBase is like moving to HBase is like moving from Oracle to MySQL to Oracle. It is not. It is not. Okay. So moving to HBase is a completely different project altogether. So it's not just that you migrate some schemas and things like that is going to work. It predominantly will be a complete project rewrite. Okay. Moving from RDBMS to HBase. Okay. And the main factor, there's another factor is that maybe not for bigger companies, but for smaller companies you have this factor, okay? Even the smallest HBase installation takes 5 machines, okay? This is, for example, even I'm having another company within which we wanted to, ideally we would want to use HBase, but then if you have to use HBase, it will take 5 more machines. And adding 5 machines in Amazon or anything is going to cost us $1 lakh per month extra. So it's just like that, okay, if you put MongoDB can be run on a single machine, so it is just that, okay, with 5,000-6,000 rupees per month, you can get that available rather than paying a huge money for 7-8 machines to run a simple HBase cluster. Okay, but it's a trade-off. It doesn't mean that HBase doesn't suit. For different projects, we use HBase where there's lots of data and computing needed, but it should be wisely taken. Okay, you can't just like that. Okay, think that okay, I learned HBase. Let's put everything as an HBase. So it's not like that. HBase should be used where it has to be used. Other NoSQL databases can be used where it has to be used. Okay, that's the thing. So this is one of the differences that we need to understand. HDFS is a distributed file system. Yes, tell me.
So can you give some? Yeah, can you give some real-time scenario where we can go for HBase?
Real-time scenarios.
Some use cases.
Everything is. Yes, some use cases. If the data is really big, it can be anything. Say, for example, how does Facebook store all its internal data? How does LinkedIn store its internal data? How does PayPal or anybody else is storing lots of their data? They are all putting it in HBase so that they can do it for an interactive queries. Your next product recommendations, so many things. They use HBase to store their and retrieve data, your user informations. Other project is using HBase. There's the Government of India's UID project is using HBase to store and retrieve all our UIDs.
Yeah, social media company is using HBase. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Yes. Lots of them are using HBase because HBase provides a kind of a scalability that is needed.
Okay.
Mani, are you aware of any financial institution usage of HBase?
Financial institutions using of HBase, there is direct financial, I don't, but PayPal uses HBase a lot. Okay, if you call PayPal as a financial institute, they do lots of financial calculation things. They use HBase a lot. I worked with the project with PayPal, so I know internally they use HBase a lot.
So, Mani, HBase access data randomly. So it's accessed sequentially or randomly. I mean,
it's a hash table. Okay, so it is not even random. It is an order of one lookup. It is a direct lookup that you do.
okay.
So it is much more better than random also. It's a direct lookup.
Okay.
If you say get employee 17, it directly knows which machine will have that 17, and then it goes directly grabs the data and gives it back.
It's something like index, right? Directly I'm putting 0th element I want, so it will give you the 0th
Yes,
element.
you can get it. That's what we call as a hash table.
Okay. So that's the reason why it is, I mean, it is fast for lookup as well. Like we can update any record
Even
very
index,
fast.
what we'll be doing is that in index also, you will just do a binary search on that index and then get it. But here it is direct lookup.
Thanks.
So it will be much more faster. Okay. So HDFS versus HBase. Okay. Lots of time people have confusion. Okay. HDFS is just a file system. Okay. It's a distributed file system, and where you can put huge amount of a file, but the HDFS file system natively provides only sequential access to data. Okay, HBase is a database, and it is written over HDFS. Okay, and HBase is a database for faster record lookup. Okay, and HBase internally puts data in an index store file that exists on HDFS for high-speed lookup. Okay, it is like Oracle is a database, but then for Oracle it needs your operating system, and then it needs a physical disk. And for all practical purpose, for the operating system, it doesn't matter whether it is an Oracle's file or any other application's file. So the operating system treats those files as the same. It's only Oracle treats its files in a different manner. In the same way, HDFS treats everything as a normal file. For HBase, it stores its own data in as an HDFS file. That is the only difference here. Got the clarity, right?
Yeah. So HBase is a incremental database. So I mean,
yes, you can add incremental data.
Yeah, but the idea here is HDFS is also incremental. We can keep adding the data. We can keep dumping the data.
Yes, you can keep adding. But what is differentiating factor is not about the incremental addition of data. It is on the available data. Can I do a pointed query? If I have 100 million records, if I want to look one record in that, HDFS doesn't provide any functionalities natively to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So HDFS is not designed for it. Even if you have to do it, you have to process the 100 million data to get that one data.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this is the higher level architecture for HBase. So there is an HDFS file system, there is a Zookeeper, and then there is a HBase. So HBase is written over HDFS file system. And Zookeeper, I'll talk about Zookeeper later, but for now understand Zookeeper is nothing but a coordination service. So it takes care of making sure whether every system in the overall system is in sync with each other. That is, no system should have failed, and dependent systems should all be up. All these things are done by a coordination server, that is a Zookeeper. Okay. And inside the HBase, there is a three different pieces that you will see. One is an HMaster, okay, and one is an region server, okay, and then there is like an application programming interfaces, APIs, so that you can connect to HBase from a Java program and then read the data and things like that. Okay. So HMaster, so the master and then there are lots of region servers. Okay, there will be one master and there will be multiple region servers. So inside the region server there are three components. One is an H file and one is a mem store and another one is a write ahead log. Okay, we'll talk about all these things in detail as we go.
So you will also talk more details in about Zookeeper going further?
No, Zookeeper I will not talk much more here because I'll talk only what role it does for HBase. Zookeeper itself is another thing. If you have to learn about Zookeeper, it is far complex and it will take at least like it will take a 2-day course to cover Zookeeper and its functionality and then how to write code using Zookeeper and what are all
Okay,
the
no, I just yeah, I just wanted to understand, like, see, in a Cloudera, I was trying to run HBase. So HBase was not running.
Zookeeper will start.
Not. Yeah.
Zookeeper should start.
Yeah. So HBase was started and sorry, Zookeeper was started. HBase was down. So what I did, like, I stopped Zookeeper and then I started HBase. It started working then HBase. So I just wanted to know, like,
Zookeeper needs to run. You need Zookeeper only when you are running HBase in a fully clustered mode. So in a single instance box, you have to run HBase in a pseudo cluster mode. And in a pseudo cluster mode, you cannot use Zookeeper. So you have to stop Zookeeper and run the HBase.
Yeah, that's true. So
Okay.
why we are using Zookeeper?
Zookeeper is to make sure that, say, Zookeeper is a coordination server, okay? In a distributed system, Zookeeper acts, make sure that every party that is agreed to work together should work together. It is like a program manager in our office, okay? A program manager makes sure if there is one project that needs 5 teams to work together, the program manager doesn't do any work apart from looking into whether the 5 teams are working as they have to work. If there is any delay in one team, the delay will be mitigated to all the other teams, so everybody know about this delay. Everybody will adjust their plans. All those things should happen, right? It is the same role as Zookeeper is doing in an automated system.
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
I would request everyone, to hold on the questions because I think we are jumping too much ahead. And for the people who are new in this technology, I mean, it is getting more difficult as the class is proceeding. I'm not sure if everybody agrees.
You have any concerns or questions, or you feel that something is the flow is
No, I'm just feeling that we should rather, continue the flow of the class rather than too much asking of questions.
Okay.
Amit, I think I'm asking the same question, only the topic he's running. I think I'm not beyond the other topic. So it would be really great, like, if he is clearing all the concerns, our concerns only. So I think I'm not sure whether.
No, because
Okay, we'll try to get a balance out of it. Okay. Yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah, even others agree. Yeah, if you look at the chat, you would want to stop your questions for now, please.
Is there anything on the chat? I didn't even look into that.
Most of us are concerned.
Only one, guys.
Oh, okay. I didn't even look into it. Okay, fine. Okay. Okay, fine. I'll try to be the moderator, and then if there is any questions that is not relevant, we'll just take it later. Okay. Okay. So. Okay, so we'll talk about HBase now. Okay, so we understood what is HBase and then how it came into picture, what are the different things that is needed. Okay, now we'll try to understand the core concepts inside the HBase. Okay, we'll try to understand what is a table, what is a row, what is a column. Okay, so the fundamental basic unit is a column. Okay, So your column is in HBase, a name column is composed of two things, a name and a value. Okay, this forms the column. Okay, say it's the same thing as our regular RDBMS also. Okay, let's start drawing here. So basic thing is that we need to understand table, row, column, cell. Okay, in a typical RDBMS, data is looked like this. ID, column 1, column 2, column 3, like this, column n. Okay. So it is like that, it starts from 1 to n. And no matter what, so this is how it will be like. So all rows, so this is a column. So this is a column, this is a column, okay, this is column, okay. So what happens is that one row, each row has all the columns, okay. So that is how our traditional way of looking into it. And the main problem in the traditional model is that number of columns are fixed, okay. Yes, we can have a flexible schema, but it is very difficult. Flexible schema, yes. Dynamically at runtime have more columns. Okay. These are some of the capabilities which are, though it can be done in RDBMS, it is not designed for doing it. Okay. But HBase is going to help you do all those things. Okay. So in the previous RDBMS model, there are two things that are clearly as a problem. One is sparseness. We assume that the model assumes that all rows should have all columns. With HBase, the concept becomes, okay, each row might have different columns. How is this possible? Okay, so the possible is this model cannot work then. This model of ID column 1 to column n, this model cannot work. So there is a flaw in this model. This model will not work for unlimited columns or not having null put in place where a column is not needed. Okay, so how do we do this? Okay, so only if you are able to do it, then we will be able to, so we'll have much more benefit. Okay, so now HBase should propose a different alternative schema. So this not a schema, the storage mechanism. So what it tries to do is that, so it becomes a little flexible. Okay, so now what it did, you still have the concept of you still have the row ID, and rather than column 1 to column n, they change this concept and then they propose a new model. So the new model is, we say we have ID and we say we are not going to say it's a column, we say column family. Okay, then we have it. So this can be ID1. So inside here, in all our traditional model, a cell has value for that row, for that column. Okay. So here what happens is that this cell, a cell, has values of, or something like a cell has a collection or list of name, value for that ID. So instead of column, we take column family. So an example can be personal info. Okay, personal info. So what would have been a table here called personal info, it becomes a column family. So personal info can be, so for ID1, this guy can have age, he can have gender, he can have blood group. Okay, all these three things will be there. For somebody has an ID2, this guy might have age, gender, what is the third thing I wrote? I forgot. Okay, age, gender, blood group, marital status, pictures, etc. Okay, so for this guy 3 columns, for this guy 5 columns. It is still possible because this is HBase. So this is the kind of a model that we are going to work on. And this model, if you write it in Java, people must be thinking this is very similar things. Okay, so this is nothing but a hash map of string comma hash map of string. This is your HBase. Okay, so what it tells, this hash map, the data, it looks like this. 1 is our ID, and then followed by name, age, gender. Okay, 2 is your ID followed by name, age, gender, B group, bio, picture. Like this, the data will be. Okay, so this is the most important understanding that needs to be understood. So the cell is having a collection of name value pairs in HBase. In your regular RDBMS, the cell has a single value for the particular row and for the particular column. Any doubts here so far?
Yeah, hi Mani. I have one question. I'm not sure like if it is too early to ask this one, but see now because the table structure is so different from regular RDBMS. Now because in regular RDBMS, if I want to perform just a where class and like example would be like age less than 18.
Right question. Very good question. Okay, yeah, continue.
Yeah, so if I want to perform like the where class like age less than 17 and gender equal to male, is it possible to run such kind of queries?
Okay, there is yes and no. Okay, the first question, the first answer is there is no concept of queries. There is no concept of queries in HBase, or for most of the NoSQL databases, there is no concept of queries. Okay, but without query, it is very difficult to write any of these things. So the concept that we are going to see is called as a filters. Okay, so you need to write some Java programs to get those kind of an answer that you want. Predominantly, the default function provided by HBase is only get. It's a hash table. Okay, in a hash table, do you write queries? In a hash table, you only look on the key. You don't even search a hash table based on the values. You search a hash table only based on keys. So HBase also provides a base functionality as search only by the keys. And what you are asking for is search based on their values. Okay, the query filter, where class is nothing but searching based on the values. Okay, so hold on to the question. That's a very nice question to ask, because you have to know that when you're using HBase, what are all the things you need to forethink. Okay, if this guy is telling like this, how a query can happen. That's a nice thought to happen, because the query is not simply possible because it's a hash table. In a hash table, you can't write queries. Okay, so and there is one more thing is that there is no concept of fixed columns. When you don't have the columns of fixed column, you don't have what you call as a schema. And if you don't have a schema, you cannot write what you call as an SQL compiler. And SQL compilation can only happen only if the compiler knows the schemas of a table. Then only it can build a query plan, it can build any execution plan and everything. Okay. When all these things are not there, nothing will happen. So it's a very good question, and then rightly asked. We will touch upon those areas of how to access the data, surpassing the limit that we don't have a query or we don't have the capability to search on the data. And we will be using a concept called filters, and we'll be using two filters. One is your client-side filters and one is your server-side filters. We'll talk about it when we start writing code.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and like one more question is like, if I want to perform like sorting also, like say for example, like I want to get the list of all these rows sorted by age. So even such kind of things are also possible?
Again, yes and no. It's like you have to write such kind of code. It is not directly possible. You have to write Java code.
It is so someone like, like we can tweak the code and get those results.
It's not trick. Actually, you have to write logic. It's not like something is a trick there.
Okay.
You just have to write code.
Okay, sure.
As I said, it is server-side filters, or it's a filter, right? You get back the data, and then after you get back the data, sorting is up to you on whichever column you need to sort it. Okay? The HBase engine is not going to do that for you. Your Java code is going to do that for you.
Okay.
And you have to understand it is, HBase is a very recent new product. Okay? It is like asking whether Oracle even didn't have results at 10 years or 12 years back. Okay? And Oracle has been used for almost 25 years now. So asking all those functionalities of rich RDBMS in a product that doesn't even have 1.0 version is asking too much. Okay, you have to constantly understand that HBase is still only 0.8 or 0.9. It's not even 1.0. So maybe 5 years down the line, lots of functionalities would have get added. But at that time, you will be much more comfortable with HBase. It is like somebody who has worked in Oracle for 20 years, they must be having more knowledge about the product, right? And they would have seen the product from its initial stages. Like somebody would have worked on Oracle 1.0, they might know that what was there in 1.0 and then how in their old days they used to work with Oracle. So today we are at that particular point in time wherein we will be able to tell to the younger people 10 years down the line that, you know what, I worked in a database which doesn't even had a query. Okay, so that is how you will be, the product will evolve.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other doubts?
One question. See here you mentioned 1, 2. So this one is a column denoting to row keys or column family.
That's a row. That's a row. That's a row. One is row. Two is one is a column. But since I put as an ID, it is like this. This whole thing is row. Sorry, the line got screwed up.
Okay.
This is a row. This is a row. So this can be another column family. There can be another column family. Okay. It can go like this. Got it?
Yes.
So The most basic unit is a column. One or more columns form a row that is addressed uniquely by a row key. A number of rows in turn form a table. Okay, each column can have multiple versions. Okay, we will talk about all these things. Rows are composed of columns and those in terms of grouped into column families. Family qualifier. Okay, so it is that's the concept. Okay, let us just understand one more time. So we have the concept of row. Okay, row is a collection of column family. Okay, and before that table. Column families. Okay. The column family is a collection of key value sets, also called as columns. Okay, a column is nothing but a key value pair. Okay, so conceptually it looks like this. Table. Okay, in every table has something called as a row ID. This is your primary key, followed by multiple column families, column family, column family. So it can be 1, 2, 3, and each column family is a collection of 1.n KV pair. That it can be name, age, gender. So this column family can be base salary, HRA, DA, etc. This can be your profile info, CV, salary info. This can be your another column family. This can be your bank account. Things like that. So there is no limit on how many column families, and there is no limit of how many columns inside a column family for a particular row can be there. And there is no mandate that every row should have all the column families. So the second row might not have anything. It can just only have bank information alone. Section 3, the row ID 3 can have this, and the remaining things cannot be there. Okay, so this is the flexibility of your HBase. And so is it clear?
How HBase handles null values?
It doesn't store anything. So,
say,
whatever is not there, it is not stored. That's it. There is no concept of nulls.
Okay.
Because we don't have the concept of a fixed schema, we don't need to store null. If it's not there, let's not store it. If I now don't find the field, which means that the field is not there. So there is no reason why I have to put a null. Okay. And if I put null, you know what, then every column family or every row should have all the columns. That is one benefit we will be losing. Today every row can have different columns. Because I don't have any mandate that I have to store all the columns, and then if the value is not there I have to put a null, I'll just ignore those columns that is not there for a particular row. Got it?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So this is an example of how it looks like. Okay, we'll talk about this slide at a little later stage. Okay, this is the conceptual model. Okay. What is there in RDBMS? If you see row C, for column C it had null. If we see the down picture, row A has column A value, column B value. Okay. Okay. Then I can move to the next slide.
Yeah, Mani, here we have two column family. I'm seeing in HBase,
Mm-hmm.
the column A and column B for row A.
Mm.
And we have the separate value. Is that correct? No? For for column A, column family value is B value. Column B, column family value is value. And we can access through row A. Is this my understanding?
No. Let's put this way. Column in the RDBMS there are column A, B, C, D. Okay.
Yeah.
So here what we are saying here is that we are having only two column family 1 and family 2. Okay. So row A has column A's value. Okay. And in family 1 and in family 2 it has column B's value. Okay. If you see row B has column B's value. Okay. And see, row B doesn't have any column A's value, which is also possible.
But for row B, ideally even the column B should be in family 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here, like in the picture, it shows for the row B, column B is in family 1. But whereas column...
There is no need to mandate here, right? It can just have any values.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there is no mandate here on what data should go. Okay, that's what in this example it would have been much more clearer if you see here. See, in ideal scenario, let's say for example, let's put a name to this column families. So this was like personal info. We call HR info. We call this as a bio info. So this is bank info. In a traditional data, we would have 5 tables. We have an employee info table. We have employee ID. Then we have a personal info table. It has employee ID is a foreign key and remaining fields. Like this, we would have had 5 tables. Okay, and to get any data, we need to do a join and get data. Okay, now here in this one, say for example, if you want to get a query like get all employee salary greater than, say for example, 50,000 who has 10-year experience and joined from Pune. To write this query, I need to join this, all the 5 tables has to be joined. Okay. So in this world, in HBase, this query is very easy because with just one row key, I can access all the column families. All I need to say is that column family 1 dot has field something salary greater than 200, so 50,000 have it. So the query may look bigger, but then there is no joins because in HBase a row key get all the column families for that key in one shot. So you get everything without even doing a join. That is when we say that HBase joins are, I mean, there is a much more efficient way of doing queries because we take the eliminate, we remove the dependency on joints to a large extent. Is that clear now? Hello?
Yeah, it's clear. So as per my understanding, yeah, so as per my understanding, this column family is helping to remove joint.
That is one way of looking into it, yes. But over a period of time, you will understand quite a lot, okay?
Yeah,
It is like this, okay? When we start learning numbers, we think numbers are just for counting. But over a period of time, we'll start to understand numbers are different. It is just not for counting, and it's like that. Okay. Slowly, our understanding will build up over the end of the course. We'll understand what exactly column families are. But to start with, your understanding is fine, perfectly fine. A column family, for all practical purpose, is a convenient replacement for the concept of tables in RDBMS. So in RDBMS, we will have database and tables. So here, it is just a database and table, but table has multiple column families. So what can happen is that you avoid dealing with multiple tables. One table, multiple column families is a good strategy. Say for in traditional world, you want to have 3 tables to do any operations. In HBase world, what we can do is that those 3 tables can be clubbed into a single table, and each one of them can be in individual column families. So you can avoid a lot of joint kind of a queries. Is it answered your question? Hello?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. Okay. This is a much more detailed explanation of the simple hash table that I wrote. Okay. So just read this hash table, read this slide once. Spend some 5 minutes reading this slide. We can express data, access the data like this. Table. First you have to tell what table you want, what row key, what family, what column, and which timestamp. This gives you value. Okay. You're getting it right. So to get a data, like traditional word, you have to tell what table, what row. Then you can say which column family, which column, and condition. Okay, like this you can actually, the data lookup plan is like this always. So previously I said HBase is very simple. It is a hash map of string, hash map of string comma string. Okay, so this concept is, this is a base concept, but then the actual concept is like this. Okay, so you have a hash map of string. This is your key. And then we saw in HBase, it's a collection of multiple column families. So you have to represent column families. Now again we put hash map of string. This string is your column family. And then you have to again have the concept of multiple columns. So that can be told by hash map of string string. So this is your column and this is the value. So row key and 1.n column family, and each column family has 1.n columns. Okay. Then we have the concept of versioning that is very simple to understand. Okay. So far clear? Hello? Hello?
It's clear.
Okay. So this is what is shown here. If you see, it is sorted, If you see here, it is a sorted map, row key, list of sorted map. There is a list, I didn't do it because this list is for your timestamp is coming in, right? So you have a list of timestamp. Okay. Now read this slide a little bit. Even if there is some questions, we can hold it because all these questions will be answered by the time we start coding tomorrow also. Okay. But read this slide for 5 minutes. Just when you're done with reading it, just let me know. We'll move to the next slide. If you see this again, the presentation of data in a row, you'll also understand how it looks like. Okay. So these are some of the examples. Okay. So how HBase is used to store web index. Okay. What is this person? Okay, something else going on. Okay. So some of the examples of where HBase was used. The first reason HBase was invented was to create for the search project. Okay, for Google when they wanted to implement their search, it was designed for search. Okay, so they need to have a database to store the inverted index. Okay, so for that inverted index, they need to have a database because Google, to do searching, it needs to do crawling, and then it needs to create inverted index. The inverted index was created by MapReduce, but then the inverted index has to be accessed in real time on so at an extremely fast rate, okay, in a random access manner. That is when they created a whole database that is called a big table, and the HBase is an implementation of this big table in an open source manner. Okay, so this is how it started. This is an example of HBase. Okay, we'll look into these things later. Shredding, automatic load balancing, we've seen it. Okay, we'll look into it again. Okay. So right now what is needed here is a little bit of hands-on, since okay, so that's one point where we can't progress now because we need the HBase installation to be there. Okay, the remaining part, if I have to cover, before covering it, I need to have a little bit of hands-on. Then only we'll be able to understand other details. Okay, so what I want to do here is all these things will make sure only when we have a little bit hands-on. Okay, we have to have the HBase installation done. Okay, so we will take next 10 minutes or so to answer some questions, and then we can break today. I know the class is scheduled till 12:30, but since we don't have none of us has an HBase installation, I don't want to progress further. So we have to have a small hands-on at least to create an HBase. We need to show the different components that is making up the HBase. We need to run a simple query, create table, dump data into the table, and then cover up little theory, and then we'll get completely into programming. Okay, so that's the plan. Okay, so the next class we will start.
Actually,
Hello.
here a question here.
Yes.
You mentioned that installation, we need to install the Eclipse. It is on Windows or we need to install on Linux itself?
Everything, whatever I talk is only under Ubuntu. Apart from the VMware,